just want to put the tip in.
It's time for Just the Tip.
That would make me uncomfortable.
Promise that it ain't too much, but just enough. Just the tip. Just the tip.
Just the tip? Just the tip.
Just really wondering, are we going to get hopped up enough to make some bad decisions? Perhaps play a little game called Just the Tip. Just for a second, just to see how it feels.
It's time for
Just the Tip
with Mike Tipton.
You talk about the dumbest fucking way to lose a football game. It is Just the Tip. I am Mike Tipton. The Dallas Cowboys have just fallen to the San Francisco 49ers. I am not a happy guy because I've said it a million times. I cannot stand the San Francisco 49ers. My guy Abe Mack saying, can we please get a clutch quarterback or perhaps one that doesn't throw interceptions? I mean, with the narrative coming into this game, with everything being about Brent Maher, is he going to show up? Is he going to make his field goals? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? The Dallas Cowboys find a way yet again to just disappoint. The conveyor belt of depression continues to roll as you cannot win a game, a big game. Yes, they won a playoff game, but come on, man. The Dallas Cowboys are just, my God, America's team no more, right? I was joking about the Buffalo Bills and all the stuff that they did, saying that they were America's team. And my goodness, the Dallas Cowboys don't deserve that anymore, right? But it is what it is. The Dallas Cowboys lose to the San Francisco 49ers. The D in Dallas stands for depression because that's basically what the Dallas Cowboys give everybody, give all of their fan base. I want to give a shout out to everyone that is tuned in right now. If you want to, go ahead, like the show, share the show. That's the only way that we grow the show. If you're a 49ers fan and you want to gloat, you want to laugh at my pain, by all means, go ahead and do so. If you're another hater out there that wants to gloat and laugh at my pain, once again, by all means, go ahead and do so. Just before you do, make sure you like the page. Make sure that you share the page. The one thing that I was worried about as a Dallas Cowboys fan, obviously I'm wearing all this dumb stuff, right? I love my team, my most toxic relationship. I sit here and I look at the Dallas Cowboys and I wonder, what is it going to take? I know flatly that Sean Payton, who was on the NFL on Fox crew before the game started, had to have wanted San Francisco to win this game because he wants to go back to Dallas. I feel that everybody wants to go back to Dallas, right? Or everyone wants Sean Payton to go back to Dallas, right? Won a Super Bowl, did all these things, blah, 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 blah. I was asked the last time I did a show on Thursday by our guy Jonathan Hood from ESPN 1000 up in Chicago, who do you keep, Zeke or Pollard? I think Pollard's value just went way down because of the injury. I said, I don't care if you keep either one of them, right? Like, either one of them isn't the thing. Then the second part of his question was, has Mike McCarthy done enough to maintain his job with the Dallas Cowboys? I didn't answer that question because I wanted to see how this game went. Although I did kind of feel like if Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl, Dallas was still going to get rid of him. It just felt like everything was kind of leaning that way. I was kind of on the fence with that because my mindset is, how do you justify firing a coach that got you back-to-back 12-win seasons, that got you into the playoffs back-to-back years, ultimately loses to the same team in back-to-back years in the San Francisco 49ers, and no slight on them, right? They came into this game, they got punched in the mouth by the Dallas Cowboys, and they responded by running the ball down the Dallas Cowboys' throat, which is exactly what I said was my biggest fear as a Dallas Cowboys fan. So as far as that played out, I'm fine. I am 100% fine with it. My guy Fano saying it's time to move on from Dak. I just don't see it happening with this quarterback. I agree. I 100 like I don't know how you move on from Dak, because if you're any of these other teams, I guess unless you're the Packers, right? Like you find a way for Dallas to be able to finesse a deal where they send Dak to Green Bay and then bring in Aaron Rodgers and that albatross of a contract where he's going to be making, $60 million and then have him maybe agree to something. But you can't trade Dak right now because of how much he's making and how little he's performing. So I feel like the Dallas Cowboys are handcuffed right now as far as Dak goes, unless you can convince this man, which if I was in his shoes, I'm not restructuring my contract, right? So to me, the Dallas Cowboys are handcuffed over to Dak. But getting back onto the Mike McCarthy thing, I was on the fence. I was like, how can you justify if this guy, wins these games for you, get your team involved? You can see there's a different mindset with him. Dan Quinn is doing an amazing job. How can you justify getting rid of Mike McCarthy? And then the end of that game happened, where Zeke Elliott was your center. Your offensive linemen are out in the middle of God knows where. Obviously, they're not going to be eligible linemen, right? As soon as Zeke hikes the ball, he gets ran over by a defensive lineman the way that it should because he wasn't in the position to do what he needed to do. And isn't a guy that's used to being in that position. So seeing Zeke get ran over the way that he got ran over, the pressure goes to Dak. Dak dumps it off to Turpin, and I get what the Cowboys were trying to do. They were going to give options for the pitch out, right? But the thing is that whenever it comes to that pitch out, there was no way in hell that it was going to happen under those circumstances. They weren't able to get the play able to develop. It makes me wonder if they even thought about this, if they ever practiced this play. My guy Fano Peter saying he's a great guy, but he doesn't know, or he doesn't show up when big games are on the line. And I agree with that 100%. It is hard for me to say this about Dak Prescott because I have tried my best ever since Tony Romo did the whole speech of I bequeath this team to Dak Prescott. I've been on the Dak Prescott bandwagon. When everyone's saying Dak doesn't have the arm to move down the field, I've been on the Dak Prescott bandwagon. And now I look at this team and I have to sit here and ask myself, what is of this team? They're handcuffed whenever it comes to payroll. Yes, they're going to have a little bit of wiggle room whenever it comes to next year. But what is going to happen with the Dallas Cowboys as they move forward and try to form a team? Because they're in purgatory right now, right? You're not good enough to win a Super Bowl, but you're not bad enough to get the coveted draft picks. And that's the issue that the Dallas Cowboys seem to face right now. My dude Abe Mack saying Dak had T.Y. Hilton wide open on a throw and threw to CC. Yeah. That was the thing that I've kind of noticed with Dak over the last couple of weeks as we talk about all of the problems that Dak Prescott has had over the last, I guess it's just this year, right? Ever since he came back from injury. Played 12 games, and I have to reiterate this statement, played 12 games and somehow, some way led the league in interceptions. Was tied with Davis Mills for the league lead in interceptions. Davis Mills played 17 games, which means he played 5 more games than what Dak Prescott played. And yet somehow, some way, Dak Prescott in his 12 games was able to tie and be the shareholder of the league lead in interceptions. That's a mind-blowing statistic when it comes to Dak Prescott. And it proves to me one thing about Dak Prescott, and it's the thing that the Dallas Cowboys fan base, the thing that Dallas Cowboys fans are going to have to try and take a good look at right now, and that is, what is the future of your franchise if this right here is your team's quarterback? There was a lot of issues whenever it was Tony Romo's team. There was a lot of things that happened under Tony Romo, right? But Tony Romo never had a stout defense. He never really had a good running game. He never really had an offensive line. And we as Dallas Cowboys fans kind of always fell back on that, right? We knew this team wasn't going to be good enough to win a Super Bowl, but we had hope. The way the Dallas Cowboys are right now, back-to-back years, a top 5 defense, back-to-back years, a top 5 running game and offense that they have. One of the best offensive lines in football. and time again, just simply underachieving. A lot of that has to do with leadership. And I'm not one of these people that's like, rah, 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 let's fire the head coach, right? Like, that's not the thing that I am about. I'm never that type of guy. But whenever I look at the Dallas Cowboys right now, there's flatly no way in hell that you justify keeping the team the way that they are. Louis Ariano put out there, Jerry Jones needs to hire a real GM. I don't know where I feel as far as that goes, because I feel like the talent that the Dallas Cowboys has on this team is top talent, right? Outside of the quarterback. If they keep Pollard, that's a number one running back, a very coveted running back. Zeke, at one point in time, one of the best running backs in the NFL. The two of them together, flatly unstoppable. CeeDee Lamb, a number one wide receiver on any team. The pickup that they had of T.Y. Hilton, that could change the landscape of the Dallas Cowboys because it finally gave them a number two wide receiver option. But whenever you look at, the other things, like the intangibles, right? The things that no one ever talks about. The defensive line is fantastic. The offensive line is fantastic. The only point on the Dallas Cowboys that you have to think about when it comes to how can this team possibly be better, yes, you can put Maher out there and say, okay, maybe they can get better at kicker, but kickers are a dime a dozen. I feel like Maher is probably still going to be the kicker of the Dallas Cowboys next year, because we've seen kickers miss a shit ton of field goals anyway. The biggest question on the Dallas Cowboys is the guy that you're paying $40 million a year to in Dakota Rain Prescott. The way that he's playing right now does not justify the contract that he has. Flatly, like it's simply that simple. Edith Romero asking, so what did the Cowboys do with Dak? The answer to that, Edith, unfortunately, is you bite the bullet. You're not going to be able to trade Dak Prescott for anything of value. We've already seen it right now, right? Like, the Dallas Cowboys got finessed in the Amari Cooper trade. A 5th-round draft pick for Amari Cooper. Maybe we could say that's a Jerry Jones thing, right? Maybe he just didn't understand the market and took whatever he could get. But Jerry Jones was handcuffed by the contract that Amari Cooper had. Whenever it comes down to Dak Prescott, I do feel like you're stuck with him. You have to wait until the payroll increases in order to do things with your team, or hope that he takes a contract restructure. But again, if I'm Dak Prescott, I'm not taking any type of pay cut. I got you to the playoffs. Yes, I had some issues, but we can talk about what was the origins of those issues. The Dallas Cowboys are handcuffed right now. They've got nothing that they can do. They've got to sit back with their hands behind their back and just take as many punches, a la Mick Foley in the Royal Rumble versus The Rock, I want to say in 1998. As many chair shots to the head as it takes, because, the Dallas Cowboys are stuck with him. Edith asking, how long is Dak's contract? We've got 4 more years of this. And by the time that 4th year comes, Dakota Rain Prescott will be making roughly $45 million from the Dallas Cowboys. You can look at some other big contracts that are out there, and, you got Patrick Mahomes and his big contract, but that's Patrick effing Mahomes, right? What quarterbacks are going to be available if you are the Dallas Cowboys? Do you go out and get a Derek Carr? Is that a better option than what you have with Dak Prescott? And to me, the answer is no. Do you try to do a deal where you try to get someone like Tom Brady? Tom Brady's been very vocal about this. He hates the Dallas Cowboys. He ain't coming to this team. The only other person that I can think of that you could work this deal out with would be Aaron Rodgers. And even with that, Aaron Rodgers is making roughly $20 million more than what Dak would. So you would have to have either one of them restructure their contract. And if you do get Aaron Rodgers, is it still better than Dak? And what we saw from Aaron Rodgers this year, the answer to that is no. Just a flat no, right? I do not want to take away from, though, the San Francisco 49ers. They came out, they slapped around the Dallas Cowboys. They did exactly what they needed to do and proved to everybody that they've got a legit shot here if they want to try and win a Super Bowl, right? I just posted up right now a link. If you want to get in on the show, just click that link. It'll bring you into the thing. You'll get into the waiting room, and maybe we can talk about it. I want to get your opinions on what you think the Dallas Cowboys should do with Dak Prescott going forward in the future. If you're still tuned into the show, go ahead and share the show for me as well. Let's try to grow the audience and everything that we were doing here on the Just the Tip Network to try to see what type of traction and things like that we can get. Those of you that don't know, I do all this stuff on my own, no longer with the iHeart affiliation or anything like that. It is literally just me trying to build a brand here and see what we can do going forward. But I digress with that, right? We talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, they made it to the last 8 teams in the league. They made it to the divisional round. The streak of not being able to make it to an NFC Championship game continues, and the Dallas Cowboys have proven that they are just simply not elite. Unlike Elite 8 Light Lager, which you can get at Albertsons, at Walmart, any place that you want to go and find your favorite beer. Make your next beer elite with Elite 8 Light Lager, made by the one and only Troy Aikman, the quarterback of the last time the Dallas Cowboys went to the NFC Championship game, the last time they won a Super Bowl. Yes, we know it's been that long ago. Troy Aikman, the founder of this beer, Elite 8 Light Lager. I've drank a shit ton of these today because the Dallas Cowboys have broken my heart time and time again. It's what they do best. But go pick up an Elite 8 Light Lager. Make your next beer elite with Elite 8 Light Lager. Again, the question of the day: what do you do if you are the Dallas Cowboys? And as a matter of fact, I'm going to type that in right here. Not before, though, I show you who our sponsors are. Remember that we are brought to you by Three Missions Brewery, 10179 Socorro Road, down in Socorro, Texas, my neck of the woods. Check out the pomegranate beer. Check out the different beers they have on tap. They've got that churro beer. They've got a brand new beer called the El Trio Membrillo. I don't speak Spanish very well, so I know I butchered that, and I apologize sincerely to my Spanish-speaking friends that are out there. They know I'm absolutely terrible at it. But if you want to get my favorite beer, the best beer to get whenever you're out there at Three Missions Brewery, in my opinion, is the Socorro Blondie. But try them all. The Copperhead is fantastic as well. Rick, Brenda, Becky, the entire crew out there at Three Missions Brewery, Matt especially, they do a great job of taking care of you. So get on out there to Three Missions Brewery and try out the different beers that they've got at 10179 Socorro Road. So once again, the question is, what do you do if you're the Dallas Cowboys? I'm typing it out as I speak. What do you do if you're the Dallas Cowboys to get better? That's all we'll put up. What do you do if you're the Dallas Cowboys to get better? I want you as the fans, and if you clicked on this, there's a little link in there if you want to try to get in on the show. Click the link that's in the comment section. You'll show up in the window. I'll bring you on the show. I don't care. Let's have ourselves a little conversation, whether you're doing it on YouTube, whether you're doing it on the various Facebook channels, whether you're on Twitch, wherever it is that you're watching the show from. I want your opinions. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, what do the Dallas Cowboys do to get better? Because right now, the way that they seem to be stuck. And that is a terrifying, an absolute terrifying situation to be in if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. Because like I said earlier, you're in purgatory right now. You aren't good enough to win the Super Bowl, flatly. We can say all we want to. We can play the semantics game. We can do all of that nonsense. But right now, the Dallas Cowboys, the way that they are constructed, are not good enough to win a Super Bowl. And they're not bad enough to get one of the coveted top 10 draft picks that gives you a player that could potentially change your franchise history. The last time the Cowboys got a draft pick in that aspect of it was Zeke Elliott, and we know that he's been great for the Dallas Cowboys, especially in his time frame. Abe Mack saying maybe a quarterback coach or a specialist for Dak. That right there is an interesting concept, right? But Kellen Moore was a quarterback. Kellen Moore had a decent career as a backup quarterback, and he's had a solid offense that he's put out there, right? So it doesn't look like you need a specific type of quarterback coach for Dak. It all comes down to what he's doing on the field. And what Dak is doing on the field right now is simply underperforming. Abe Mack also asking, is only he could make better decisions choosing his targets? That's kind of what it comes down to, right? Who is Dak throwing the ball to? You mentioned it earlier, Abe, and those that don't know, Abe Mack, even though he's in the phenomenal band, the Abe Mack Band right now, and they're touring all over the place. They were just here in El Paso. As a matter of fact, Abe, let me know the next place that you're going to be playing, because my dude puts out some amazing music. He even did a little intro for me. I probably should have played that intro just because I got nothing but love for my dude, right? But Abe Mack used to play football. He played football over at UTEP, graduated from Socorro High School. That's my dude, right? We go way back like 4 flats on the Cadillac. My dude knows football. When it comes down to Dak Prescott and what he's doing, it simply comes down to the fact that Dak Prescott is making terrible decisions. How do you coach that out of somebody? We saw Brian Daboll do it with Josh Allen, and seemingly this year again with Daniel Jones over in New York. Do you need one of those, quote unquote quarterback whisperers to get into Dak's ear and be like, hey, guy, look, I know that you want to make these bad throws, but just don't do it right now. Dak has been in the league now for 6 or 7 years. He's been in the NFL for a while. I don't know if you necessarily need to have a guy there to be like, look, Dak, and hold his hand and hope that he makes the right decision going forward. My dude, Abe Mack, saying February 10th over at Ricky D's. Check them out online, Abe Mack Music. That's where you want to go. Find out their schedule. Check out all the things that they're doing. Follow them online. Abe Mack, some great music that he's put out over the last few years. Some amazing music videos as well. You don't need someone there to hold Dak's hand. The dude is a grown-ass adult. Whenever he's on, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But whenever he's off, he's clearly not, right? Abe Mack asking if we're stuck with him for 4 years. It seems like it's that way right now. We don't have any other options. You can cut him. But at this point in time right now with Dak's contract, if you cut him, instead of paying him $40 million, you're going to have $45 or $46 million, roughly, anywhere between there, maybe even as high as $50 million in dead cap space. So even though you cut him, you still have that money that you have to worry about paying out, right? The reason why the Dallas Cowboys didn't get rid of Zeke Elliott this year, this offseason leading up to this year, was because if they had done anything with his contract, they still would have owed him $22.5 million in just dead cap space. Yes, you cut him. Yes, you did whatever you can to him. But the way that the NFL structures their contracts is in certain windows, players have a negative hit on your salary cap if you cut them. Right now, if you were to cut Dak because he's so – I think this is just the second year of his contract extension. If you were to do anything like that, like cut Dak, you would have a massive amount, an absolute just gigantic specter of money sitting there in dead cap space that you would not be able to use. So to put that into like terms that we can look at for the future, right? Next year, 2023 going into 2024 is the end of Zeke Elliott's contract. That's whenever it comes to an end. He has a 0 cap hit on the Dallas Cowboys going forward into next year. The best part about that is, okay, now the Dallas Cowboys are able to go ahead and cut Zeke Elliott if they so choose to, but he had a very productive year this year. So even though you have a 0 cap hit on him, do you want to get rid of him? Because he and Pollard together kind of makes sense, right? The only other thing that you got to look at is now you got to pay Tony Pollard because his contract is up now. The season ended today. His contract is up now. So in order for the Dallas Cowboys to cut Dak Prescott and not have a huge hit in the salary cap against them, they would have to wait till the last year of his contract, which at this point would be 2026, 2027, somewhere in that time frame in order to do it. The only thing the Cowboys can do is maybe say, okay, let's lessen the guarantees up front and extend it out a couple of years. Let's extend your contract another 4 or 5 years. So that way we're paying you more over the long run. So that way it gives us more salary cap to mess with, and we can actually get other players to maybe help out this team. But again, looking at the Dallas Cowboys, they're deep on the offensive line. Questions at running back on what you do with Pollard and Zeke, right? Deep in the receiving core because you got Gallup. You've got Noah Brown, who I guess this is also a year that he's going to have to try to make some money as well because this was his last year too. You've got CeeDee Lamb. You've had some good things with the Dallas Cowboys going forward. So there's a lot of contracts out here that you're going to have to restructure. DeMarcus Lawrence restructured his deal this year, and obviously he's going to demand more money because he had an extremely productive year. CeeDee Lamb's contract expires not this upcoming year, but the next year after that. So you're going to have to look at, do we re-sign CD? How's that going to be? And then whenever you're done with that, Micah Parsons' contract comes right up after that, right? So it's nothing more than a conveyor belt and a ladder of each and every contract that comes up whenever it comes down to the Dallas Cowboys. I like what Fano said right here, right? Dak is no scrub. He's a top 10 quarterback at best, but that said, with the level of competition in the league, he cannot compete with the top talent. There's days where he looks like he's the best quarterback in the NFL. And I think that's what's frustrating whenever it comes to Dak, right? We see it all the time. The coach is the guy that gets fired. The coach is the one that's always the one that takes the hit because it's just easier that way whenever it comes to how do you structure your team. As far as I am concerned, the coach is not the most important person on the field. The most important person on the field are the 22 to 30 players that play on the field throughout any point of the game because that is where the game is played. It's between those players right there. So Mike McCarthy shouldn't take the hit here. Kellen Moore shouldn't take the hit here. It was the players who have all the power in the game that wound up messing this game up for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, that last play was just utterly asinine. Last year, going back to Dak with the slide, this is back-to-back years that we're looking at the Dallas Cowboys ending the game in just absolutely embarrassing fashion. I'm not one that gets super emotional or super invested into these games because I know who I am, right? I'm some fat dude drinking Elite 8 light lager on the, at home, watching these teams play. I have zero impact in these games, so it's hard for me to get super emotionally invested in these games. But whenever I watch the seasons end, the way that these two seasons have ended, what the hell is going on here, man? And it looks like you've got a coaching staff that has no idea what they're doing outside of Dan Quinn, who, if anybody should be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, it might be Dan Quinn. Not necessarily Sean Payton, although I do believe the Cowboys will probably go the Sean Payton route. But when I look at this team and their mental makeup, and I hearken back to last week whenever I was like, F you, Steve Young, you don't know what you're talking about. And Steve Young was just basically saying the Dallas Cowboys are soft. It makes me wonder if there's some legitimacy behind that. They've got $1 billion stadium, a multi-billion-dollar stadium. They've got $1 billion practice facility. They don't know what it's like to face any type of adversity, right? And maybe that's where I think the Dallas Cowboys have a disconnect when it comes to these other teams. As soon as you get that star, as soon as you get this on your helmet, on your shoulder pad, on the front of your jersey, any of that nonsense, as soon as you get that on there, you've basically got it made, right? The most valuable franchise in sports. One of the best media markets in sports in Dallas, being one of the huge areas out there, right? You're always going to have the primetime game no matter what, no matter how irrelevant you've been for 30 years almost. You're going to have that primetime spot. You are a member of the Dallas Cowboys, and you have made it. And somehow, some way, they just don't get better. It seems like, once again, for the last 30 years, right? There were a lot of jokes that were made about the Dallas Cowboy record. Since 1995, they were basically a 500 team, just sitting there in purgatory. They weren't bad enough to get the number 1 overall pick. They weren't good enough to win the Super Bowl. Just sitting there in purgatory, leaning back and forth the entire way. The question once again comes down to, are the Dallas Cowboys going to be good enough to win any of the games, any of the big games that come up in the future? Now you've got Philadelphia on the come up, right? Now you've got Philadelphia out there saying, oh, okay, well, maybe we can do some other stuff out there. Philadelphia, to me, is the cream of the crop when it comes to the AFC East. New York moving up. Washington moving up. What do the Dallas Cowboys do now? Because you are handcuffed to Dak Prescott. What do you do in order to get better? And to me, I can't find the answer right now. So that's why I'm asking you, as the people listening to this, people that are out there that are Dallas Cowboys fans, what do you do to get better if you are the Dallas Cowboys? So I'm sitting here thinking about it. What do the Dallas Cowboys have to do to get better? Is it the coach? Is it getting rid of the quarterback? Is it trying to do any of the things out there that you can think of? They've got an elite defense. Maybe you get a little more depth in the defense. You've got a great offensive line. Maybe you get a little more depth in the offensive line. But as we see right now, the way this team is constant, like the way that they're built, they are not good enough to win a championship. None of us at any point in this time during the season, despite the fact that they overachieved in my mind, none of us thought that this would be a team that wins a championship. And I hate to be that nihilistic when it comes to talking about the Dallas Cowboys, but what is it that they can do? Is Sean Payton going to come in here? Is he the quarterback whisperer that our guy Abe Mack was talking about? Is Sean Payton the guy? Because we saw what he did with Drew Brees, right? But outside of that one season where the Saints won a Super Bowl, and obviously there was a lot of stuff going on there that kind of led to the momentum of the Saints winning the Super Bowl, that was a team that constantly underachieved. That was a team that constantly, despite having one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, despite having one of the best receivers in the NFL, despite having one of the best running backs in the NFL, and a defense that was always on the come up, consistently underachieved. People can say, okay, well, yeah, they had it taken away from them whenever the Rams made the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. Cool, right? You still had 2.5 minutes and an overtime to try to win that game outside of that pass interference penalty that was called. Is Sean Payton the guy to take the Dallas Cowboys over the hump? Hell, Mike McCarthy's Super Bowl is more recent than Sean Payton's Super Bowl win was. Is that the answer for the Dallas Cowboys? And to me, I don't know if you have an answer for the Dallas Cowboys. To me, I wouldn't fire Mike McCarthy. I would keep Mike McCarthy. I think those are some dumb plays. I think you got to get into Kellen Moore's head and say, look, dude, let's tighten this shit up. But outside of that, I don't see anything wrong with what the Dallas Cowboys have done as at least the playbook goes, right? Like that's my issue when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. Like I don't see any issues with that. But is Dak the guy that wins you a Super Bowl? Is Dak Phillip Rivers? The guy that's always going to get you to the playoffs but just doesn't have what it takes to win an actual Super Bowl, to win an AFC or NFC Championship game? Is that who Dak is? Because if that's who he is, then fine, right? But I feel like with this team, with what the people saw from the Dallas Cowboys this year, there was a lot of expectations as the season kept building and building forward. And it just seems that the Cowboys didn't meet those expectations. We'll talk about this a little bit more as we go forward in the weeks that show up. Obviously, Fire and Ice, me and Brandon the Iceman Cone this weekend. Next weekend, actually Saturday the 28th, he and I will be out at the El Paso Dive Kitchen Bar or Dive Bar Kitchen at 5850 North Mesa on the west side of El Paso. So come on out there, join us, check out the brand new menu that they've got, get some of the beer specials out there. There's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of stuff going on out there with the El Paso Dive Bar Kitchen. So I hope to see you out there as well. I want to talk about the 49ers. This is a team that I think poses a lot of issues for the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. The Chiefs and the Bengals are going to be in the AFC Championship game, so that's going to create a lot of fun going forward. I went 2-2 on my picks this weekend. I went undefeated yesterday, and I couldn't even sniff a win this game this week because I said the Cowboys were going to win flat out. I went with my heart. I didn't go with my brain. I even put it out all over social media. I told my brain to shut up because I was going to choose the San Francisco 49ers, but I chose the Dallas Cowboys because obviously, look at me, I am a damn idiot when it comes to my favorite team. However, with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for your time, for joining me here on the show. I'd love to see if anybody's got anything else that they want to say. Other than that, I'm going to take a little sip here of this Cooperstown whiskey bourbon that I am drinking right now. Cooperstown bourbon. Check them out online, especially on Instagram. You saw how awesome that was a heavy pour. You saw how awesome this bottle looks right here. It looks just like a baseball. Check them out on Instagram at Cooperstown Distillery. I've got to drink my sorrows away, so I will send it to you. I told you it was a heavy pour. Oh, my goodness. Whew. My dude, the Cuervo saying, tell it like it is, Big Mike. Hey, you know that's the only thing I know how to do, my dude. Everybody, I ain't got nothing but love for you. I'm going to drink my sorrows away as the Dallas Cowboys once again continue to be the conveyor belt and assembly line of depression. The big D stands for Big Depression because the Dallas Cowboys just consistently underachieve. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to tonight's show. I know it was an impromptu, but thank you all for your feedback. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you later on this week. Check us out Saturday, January 28th at the El Paso Dive Bar Kitchen, 5850 North Mesa. Myself and the one and only Brandon the Iceman Cone will be out there for a little fire and ice. Hopefully, we'll see you all out there as well.